Hollow Knight versus Hollow Knight Silksong. Now, both of these are games within the Hollow Knight universe that inspire a lot of wonder and awe. Vast world, quirky characters, cool abilities. There could be a lot to contrast, from similarities to distinct differences. It's easy just to list off a ton of contrasting points from similar characters to abilities. However, I find a lot of them could really be boiled down to this: the main characters. Both these guys are pretty distinctly different characters in their personalities and how they affect the overall story. In the first game, the knight is meant to feel like a blank slate. He can't talk, we don't really know what his motives are. Whatever aspects we do glean from them are very sparse throughout the story. It's easy to write them off as a blank slate, but there is something there, it's just really limited. Something which Hornet could see, but she is much more able to expand upon. Hornet, contrasting with the knight, is a lot more of a character. We see a lot more of her personality and quirks. She's actually able to hold long, dynamic conversations with other characters, compared to ones with the knight where they're basically talking to the void. Hornet literally has 7 different crests, which exemplifies a different personality aspect to her. She is the Hunter of the March, Reaper of Souls, Wanderer of the Fields, Beast of the Savage, Straight Up Witch, Architect of Destruction, and Shaman of Snails. She just a jack of all trades, huh? She has a full-on hunter's journal where she talks about various bugs she's fought, the Fluffy she wants to adore, and the Slab she wants to destroy. You could give her a bell home. I could just go on about Hornet, she's just a cutie patootie. And this is generally what gives Silksong a leg up to original Hollow Knight. Like, there are aspects of original Knight that I could gravitate to, but Hornet, there's just a lot more to latch onto. And this trickles down to various aspects in the game. Like, I find when comparing the different characters, the ones in Silksong honestly stick out to me more, just because I could see how they contrast to Hornet. Sherma's optimism, Chakra's badassery. No offense to Hollow Knight, but a lot of them just don't stick out in the same way. Most of them are just nice. A vague sort of niceness which doesn't give me a lot to work off because the knight doesn't offer much back. I mean, to further drive my point home, the most memorable person in Hollow Knight is of all people Zote, who's just a goofy crazy person who sticks out because he isn't some nice NPC who tries to help you. He's just some annoying old man who's constantly getting himself into trouble. You could literally just leave him to die. Even Hornet herself doesn't stick out much in this game. I think with the context of Silksong, it really helps flesh her out and makes me appreciate her more in this game. Here, I feel like there's a journey of her accepting choice. She pushes back against the knight, questioning if they have what it takes to really save Hollownest, and then towards the true ending, she ends up pitching in to help the knight, eventually seeing that change is possible. This change is further elaborated in Silksong, with her now being the active arbiter of choice. Could she change the course of Farloom? Well, with enough good deeds, she just might. Okay, so to touch on a very specific aspect, the difficulty. Both games, and especially Silksong as of late, have been noted for their levels of difficulty. Now, part of my response is honestly, get good, but I could see to an extent. For the original Hollow Knight, I actively played that for 3 years, up until the main Silksong. And while I had pitfalls in some areas, I found that through my best playthroughs, I could basically beat all these bosses on a first try, except for, ironically, second phase Hornet. I don't know what it is, but something about her moveset is really tricky. With Silksong, it's a whole other can of worms, cause it's a different playing style and different set of rules. Hornet is a much faster character. In some sense, she feels like a much more dynamic sort of character. She could sprint. In a lot of ways, comparing the Knight and Hornet, I feel like Hornet is a much more conventional action protagonist. Like, she feels like she has the agility and speed to take on challenges. The Knight doesn't feel as combat efficient. He's got little stubby arms and legs, his head seems too big. He reminds me of like a Mario-like character, someone who doesn't feel like the most ideal action protagonist, but they just sort of make it work. Anyway, with Hornet, there are hurdles like enemies that could do double damage, or really elaborate gauntlets, but through some trial and error I was able to get through. It's similar to Hollow Knight, where I struggle with some of these folks, but then later on I find that actually, I can honestly take on some of these guys in the first try, like the 4th chorus. Some guys I kind of have to cheat, like in the High Hulls Gauntlet. I basically wall cling to one of these top corners to just narrowly escape 2 of these hammer slamming boss dudes. Let some cogflies take charge. Then after they take one of them out, I'm like, okay, I can handle one of these guys. Or with Grohl, I find I could just go to one of these lower bottom corners with the charm that repels muck maggots and spam a bunch of tools on Grohl. There was a point in Act 3 where I was in between like 7 different boss arenas. And I'm like, this is too much, what do I do? Then through the power of Lifeblood Overdose and Arcarect Crest, I find I have a power. Coral Gauntlet, Seth, Crawfhover, Virginia, the Savage Beast Fly I'd take care of, the Slab Mover, some other guys, all taken out through this cheat of skill. I ended up thinking around Silksong's difficulty, but it ended up working out for me. In a lot of ways, it makes sense. Silksong would be a more grueling experience than Hollow Knight. I mean, it is an evolution onto gameplay. I've had my fair share of gamer rage and frustration, but a lot of it's worth it in the end. In some sense, going back for original Hollow Knight after Silksong, I find some of my gameplay's changed. A little more aggressive. Gotta be more like my cool bigger sister. I gotta say, I like the evolution on the currency system. Like, outside of what's easier, the concept of Geo is just kinda silly, just a bunch of fossilized rock that seems to be everywhere. Rosaries feel a lot more unique, more special to this world, and stand out as a currency. I also like to make me a little rosary necklace. You know, fitting for Hornet, and of course, saves rosaries. Combining that with shell shards, tools I can use in this universe, I feel like I have a pretty effective economy. Something of original Hollow Knight is that once I literally buy everything from all the stores and such, I'm basically sitting on a bunch of Geo with nothing to do. Like, all that's left is to buy rancid eggs, and that's gonna run out too. With Silksong, there's at least a decent economy. Gaining rosaries and spending on shards, which I could later use for tools like a little cogfly circuit. I could go on with a lot of comparisons, but I figured I'd do the biggest story climactic comparisons within the games. For a start, the simplest of comparison, the save file layout. In the original Hollow Knight, it's horizontal, in Silksong, it's vertical. I don't really see much of a meaning for this, but I kind of rationalize some ideas. Like, could be how they mentally organize things. Like, the original Knight has to lay things on top of each other, while Hornet organizes like a bookcase. Okay, getting to the big distinction. Hollow Knight, its final boss is disgruntled sibling, with its secret layering being a godly parental figure. Whereas in Silksong, the final boss is a godly parental figure, but the secret underlining final boss is disgruntled sibling. I find this to be a pretty cool inversion. Like, the knight might be a weapon against a disgruntled fella, but their real power is against an almighty force. Meanwhile, with Hornet, while she might like to challenge an almighty force, at the risk of becoming one herself, her real power would be dealing with a disgruntled sibling. Like, as a more personal fella, she would appeal more to that level, you know? There could be a lot of layering to this. It's also interesting that with a knight, to uncover this secret ending, they have to basically go on this side mission collecting dream essence to eventually unlock this. Whereas with Hornet, she has to do greater interaction within the game, helping all the towns and such. And it leads to this whole other story chapter which shakes the world and results in her getting deeper. It's all just interesting stuff. It's a lot of fun contrasting the games. It's also interesting exploring the concept of choice. Like, no matter what, the knight is pretty set in their path. And no matter what, they kind of end up destroyed, either enslaved in a tomb or becoming a void. Whereas Hornet, for the best ending of the game, she still ends up being herself. That's kind of neat. I could see a lot more to potentially develop. We'll see how this goes. What are some aspects you like within the games? Feel free to let me know, and cheers.